Condemned is a first-person horror game developed by Monolith Productions, released in 2005 and running on the Jupiter engine, also used in the similarly styled game Fear. The story takes influences from films like Seven and Silence of the Lambs and focuses more around psychological horror within gritty urban environments. Visually, the game is very stylistic with some fantastic atmospheric lighting and clever use of atmospheric effects, topped off with a really well-crafted soundscape. The protagonist is a dude named Ethan Thomas, working for the FBI in a special unit dedicated to tracking down serial killers. During the game's prologue, Ethan is called in to investigate the latest crime scene of a serial killer called the Matchmaker.
It's the work of a guy we've been calling the Matchmaker.
Before he is soon ambushed and framed for the murder of 2 officers. Instead of simply explaining what happened, something I'm sure the authorities would believe given the circumstances, he instead goes on the run.
Open up, it's the police!
Damn.
With the help of a lab technician named Rosa and a mysterious man named Leyland, he begins a long and dangerous journey to prove his innocence, eventually uncovering a sinister plot involving a secret cult with a long and dark history. Now, you could initially be forgiven for thinking that Condemned is a first-person shooter. The first few minutes of the game let you loose against unarmed thugs with an automatic pistol, but before long you end up losing your weapon and the melee combat system reveals itself. Condemned is one of the few first-person games that has a focus on melee combat primarily, and it also does it really well for the most part. The central theme of the plot is all about the increase of crime and violence in the more dangerous parts of the city, which primarily seems to affect all of the lowlifes. So in that regard, you'll be up against all manner of crazy assholes who'd like nothing more than to cave your skull in. From vagrants, hobos, and addicts. These pricks are all really ticked off and very aggressive, and the majority of combat is up close and personal. From pipes, planks of wood through to hand railings and mannequin arms, almost everything can be plucked from the game world and used as a makeshift weapon. Each weapon has its own unique damage, range, speed, and block output. These stats also apply to the enemies as well, and anything you can access, they can too. Watching a disarmed enemy run for a nearby power conduit and ripping it from the wall, causing the nearby lights to flicker, looks pretty damn awesome. It's all very brutal to witness, and the concept is that it's every man for himself. It can be really impressive when there's half a dozen guys running around, beating 7 shades of shit out of each other, and it's all topped off with some smooth, fluid animation that adapts dynamically to the action. But what really makes the combat so enjoyable is its simplicity. It's not about memorizing move lists and combos. You either attack or you parry, selecting one of 4 finishing moves every now and then to finish off a weakened opponent. Parrying an enemy's attack is an essential skill and something you'll quickly want to get the hang of. Yet the trick here is that almost every single enemy in the game differs in attack speed, style, and aggression. Certain enemy types will even feign their attacks, leaving you off guard momentarily. What this really means is that although you can get accustomed to how fights work, you can never truly be at ease, because every new enemy is going to mix things up from the last and keep you constantly on your toes. Every now and then you get your hand on a ranged weapon like a shotgun or a rifle. These are very limited in ammo, and the only ammo you get is what comes with them. Obviously this was done to keep the focus on melee, but these few moments are still pretty fun and give some brief respite from the game's frantic melee combat. When not bludgeoning people to death, Ethan is also able to use his FBI tools in certain areas to uncover clues to help him progress. These moments aren't really going to bust your brain, but they do make a nice change from all the fighting.
Got it.
Instead of cheap jump scares, the atmosphere is more about getting under your skin and then staying there. You're always waiting for someone or something to come lunging at you from the darkness, and it makes things real tense. What this also means is that the 3 or 4 jump scares that are in the game will probably cause you to have a goddamn heart attack. There's one in particular involving an abandoned school and a locker. I'm going to say no more, but people who've played the game will know exactly what I'm talking about. On the downside though, combat is sadly plagued by a few glitches, which kind of detract from the overall enjoyment. Quite often when you block an enemy's attack, it simply ignores the movement entirely, allowing them a free hit. The first-person perspective means it can also be difficult trying to figure out how close you are to an enemy, and you'll often take a hit because it feels like you're a safe distance away. Kinda sucks. Also, Ethan himself is a total fat ass, and runs like he's in water up to his knees. He's got a stamina bar, though this runs out in about 2 or 3 seconds, and it can be a real pain in the ass if you ever need to retreat during a fight. It's not the type of game you're going to be bunny hopping through, but I mean, even still, he moves really, really slowly, and things feel very lethargic at times. A Aside from this, it can also be a very unappealing game because it really is very dark and intense, and it doesn't ever really lighten the mood. Though I guess that's kind of the whole point of the story, so you can't really knock it for that. Condemned 2 is kind of like the Highlander 2 of video game sequels, if that makes sense. Without ruining it, it basically just retcons a lot of plot elements from Condemned 1 and takes them to the point of full retard. Part of what makes Condemned 1 so enjoyable is just the mystery surrounding everything, and out of the two I'd say it's easily the best. At the end of the day, I would have no problems recommending Condemned to anyone who's got a strong enough stomach. The gameplay is pretty easy to pick up, and its story, atmosphere, and visceral combat will keep you heavily invested along the way. But it is a really fucked up game with some downright disturbing scenarios and imagery, and it's not something that everyone is going to enjoy. But if beating the crap out of a whole variety of deformed freaks in a nightmarish industrial environment sounds like fun, then hey, this is the game for you.